Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Happy Friday, Happy New Year. I'm so glad you are here live with us today. Quick check, if you are able to hear me, just drop in yes in the chat and let us know from where you're joining from. North Carolina, Detroit, Atlanta. Good. Seattle, I know. Yes, I'm from Seattle as well. Thank you. So for those who are new here, I'm Padmachana Kandi, Director of Strategy and Programs at Future World Alliance. We are a mission-driven community helping educators, students, and builders become future-ready through practical, responsible AI. Our belief is simple: AI shouldn't feel intimidating or exclusive. It should feel like a power you can access easily and ethically, thoughtfully, and creativity to learn, build, and make real impact. Today is extra special because it's part of the launch of our weekly speaker series, Future World Conversations. This series is all about bringing in incredible experts and keeping it real, actionable, and hands on, not just ideas, but things you can try right after the session. And now I'm excited to introduce our speaker for today's session, Vishal Sachdev, a clinical professor, associate professor of Gies College of Business, director of MS in Business Analytics at Gies College of Business, University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, and director of the Illinois MakerLab. Vishal brings a rare mix of academic depth and true marker energy, perfect for today's session, which is building to learn and learning to build. All right, without further ado, Vishal, over to you.
Thank you for the introduction. Hopefully, I can do justice to that. Good to see. Good to see. I
Okay.
hear some echo.
Yeah, if you guys can make it mute, that would be really helpful.
Maybe we can mute people
Yeah.
by ourselves as well. Thank you all for being here. I'm Vishal at the Gies College of Business. I guess I'll also share my LinkedIn profile in the chat, and would be great to have you all share as well, and perhaps connect with each other since you're all interested in, I guess, building to learn and learning to build. So a quick introduction about me. I'm in the, of course, I teach in the information systems area at the Gies College of Business, which, I guess got a lot of faculty. We got over 100 faculty in, a combination of areas besides finance and accounting at Gies. So we're a big operation here, and I see John Gordon here, so that was a familiar name in the chat. So John knows about Gies. I'm not sure who else. I guess Rajsi is from Champaign as well, and of course our host certainly knows about Gies. So I've been playing around with, I guess one another interesting mental model, and I talk about mental models a lot in this presentation plus workshop as well, is, when you think about when ChatGPT was launched. So now I have a phrase to say that, whatever it was, November 2022, right? I think, yes. So that was BC, right? So that was before ChatGPT, and now you're AC after ChatGPT, right? So the world changed quite a bit. So I've been experimenting a lot over the last 3 years, trying to figure out what this means for learning and teaching, of course, for instructors, for faculty, and not just faculty, I guess for staff as well, and of course certainly for students. And you'll see a lot of conversations about education under threat due to AI and all of that. So I guess all of us are trying, and we're doing a lot in terms of curriculum changes. But one of the themes that I have sort of experimented with and tried to fine tune on is that, okay, so if traditional assessments are under threat, what do we do? So with that framing, sort of my hypothesis and testing that I'm doing with what I'm building and trying to learn by building and then teach by building and then helping students and others as well. So build to learn and then learn to build, right? So, and then of course there are implications for how faculty can do this and then how students can leverage this, and generically, I guess anybody wanting to learn, why is building a practical way, and then we'll do sort of a hands-on exercise that you can follow along. Hopefully, we don't have too much time, but we'll try and see what is possible in this. So that's the framing. That's where I'm coming from. A lot of experimentation, but the thesis being that we now teach and learn by building. And then, of course, some meta learning to make sure that we are actually learning and not just, there's a term around there, wipe coding, right? Where you just throw stuff at these models and they'll make stuff with you, but how do you make sure that you're actually learning? So that's the framing. So I will, and thank you for sharing your LinkedIn profiles. Hopefully you will get to know each other here as well, because I guess you're all a learning community interested in the same thing. So please keep sharing in terms of why you're here, what is interesting, and I'll take a look at the during the pauses during the talk as well. So let me share my deck for a bit. And true to form, this deck is also AI generated. Of course, the content is mine, but the deck is no longer a deck. It's basically code. So that's another mental model I'm experimenting with, is that you should own your content, and your content should sit on a platform that you control. Can be the web as well, right? Box folder, GitHub, or wherever. And then you put a layer on top of that. So this is an attempt to create a presentation as text and code, and then render it in a browser using a basic library. So I guess those of you who are teachers, educators, parents, builders in general, or learners, sort of changing the framing from content delivery to teachers as builders. And I guess before you can experiment with building as a form of teaching and learning, you got to become a builder yourself. So hopefully by the end of this session, you'll have built something that puts you on a path to experimenting yourself, because really it's all about figuring out a few mental models, and that's what I'll talk about right now, right? So with traditional assessments, essays, case studies, even complicated analysis that you might have people do using Excel or code, 99% of that can now be automated. And unless you have the luxury of working with a small group of 10, 15 students, or be able to pay attention to everyone, you're likely to land up in a situation where many of your students might just optimize for grades because that's what they're trained to do, and inevitably use AI to short circuit some of the friction of learning, right? So assessments may no longer be an appropriate, or earlier traditional assessments may not work. So going towards more project-based learning, and then more building as part of those projects, could be a solution, right? So in this case, when you might need to try this, you're thinking about teaching and building some of these tools yourself, and I'll demonstrate some of those that I have built for class as well. And in that process, you can actually explore that students learn how to create, and maybe if we do it right, they can use that as a process of learning, right? There's still an experiment, right? So the good part is that if anybody who's in sort of in an educator frame of mind, it can be also if you're learning yourself, right? It doesn't have to be that you're always a teacher. I'm probably doing a lot more experimenting just for learning myself rather than thinking about just teaching it, right? So because you are always thinking about what you have to teach or what you have to learn, and hopefully you're good at what you're doing, or at least good at learning. So that context you are familiar with becomes your sort of core competence, and that you can then unleash with these tools, right? So all I guess you need to do as a learner or as a teacher, and we talk about context engineering in a bit, is that you figure out mental models to work with these tools and develop some creative confidence. And then because you are immersed in your context, you can do a lot better job than picking some off-the-shelf tool that somebody might be selling you, right? And you can do this for a lesson, you can do this for a topic, you can do this for a semester, right? That's really up to you. So assuming you become a builder, then you can teach building, and then your students become creators, right? So that's where the sort of the I guess the flywheel sets up, right? So if you're interacting with 30, 50, 100, 500 students, depending on if you're doing this online, the power that you have to create that flywheel effect, and hopefully many of these students of yours go out and teach others as well, right? That's the ideal scenario. So you really can't avoid the use of AI tools I don't, most of our faculty don't, they put guidelines on how they want to use it, and they figure out ways in which you can ensure that real learning, which does require friction, right? You cannot have learning which is easy, right? If it's easy, it's probably not learning, because then really there's nothing else happening in your brain. So, we try and find ways around it. So assuming AI is a given, maybe if you change some of the context so that the assessments or assignments or projects, one, are more personalized, and then people build, and then they get feedback from peers or from the external world, you have some chance of ensuring that students actually pay attention and they actually learn, because they sort of, some of their reputation is at stake, right? So one of the key concepts that we want to try and build among ourselves, among yourself as well, and of course, if you're in a position to teach others, is the concept of agency, and then iteration, right? So you're not going to get anything perfect the first time. So, and with these AI tools, you can iterate very fast, right? I don't know if you can actually train curiosity in, but certainly iteration is a mental model that you can train. And agency, perhaps, if you do enough cycles where people do something, they get some feedback, they get some motivation, maybe agency is a trainable skill. I'm not yet sure about curiosity. Hopefully that builds over time, right? But these are, according to me, things that enable and that get influenced when you make people build artifacts, right? And when I say build, I don't mean a app necessarily. I'll show you examples of research artifacts that I've built, or stuff that just makes research easier to consume. So it doesn't have to be about, a web app, though I'll show you that as well, right? So some mental models that I think are useful when we think about working with these AI tools. I don't think you need to worry about the technology anymore. Of course, you need to pick a reasonably good model, and then you need to, depending on if it's an education context, you need to think about privacy and security and all that. But we assume you all can do that, so you don't really need to worry about getting far into the technical stack. It's more about figuring out how these models think, right? And teachers, at least, are supposed to be good at that, because you're always putting yourself in the shoes of the learner. So if you think about this AI tool as a sort of a junior intern, it makes it easier to think about, okay, what information does it have? What does it need? Relevant to the objective of what you're trying to get it to do, right? So perspective taking is important, and sort of this theory of mind concept is important. And if either you have that capability or you build it to model another agent, and in this case, agent can be, a human, which is a student, or an agent, which is an AI tool, that helps, right? So in this case, we're talking about modeling what an AI agent needs to do your work for you. Well, okay, I guess that's probably a bad way to saying it, but in terms of actually help you do your work better, right? So AI is probably better understood as augmentation, right? So augmented intelligence rather than artificial intelligence. At least that's the way I hope we use it, right? So in terms of you being the bridge, in terms of, I think we have somebody unmuted. Yeah. Your job is to figure out how to translate tacit into explicit context, and then use that context with these AI tools, as you start building, right? So everybody used to talk about prompt engineering till maybe last year. Now these models are so good that you really don't need to worry about over specifying a prompt, right? As long as you're clear with your intent, and you pay attention to sort of what does the agent know, or what information does it need to solve that problem, you can get a really good output from these models, right? So you don't need to learn prompting. So these are sort of the hype cycles that go wrong, right? So if depending on where you are in terms of expertise in your area, if you don't know the domain and you use these AI models, you're probably going to get some output, but you won't know if it's good. If you know what you're doing and you don't try these tools enough, I guess, say, oh, it's not really good, or it hallucinates, you might get a little bit there, but not too far, right? Now, if you know your domain and you try these tools, and when I say try these tools, it's not good enough to try them once in 6 months, right? This stuff changes every 2 months. And arguably, with some of these tools have hit sort of an inflection point over the last 3 months, and several of the frontier models are absolutely amazing to work with, and also in context of building, right? So I would encourage you that if you're not confident of any of these tools, use them tomorrow, use them 3 weeks again later, and that'll change some of your perspectives on how good they are, right? So your job is not to be a coder. So when I say builder, you're not coding, vibe coding is a word, but I would say architect is better. And specify your intent, manage context, and the rest these models will do for you, right? Don't worry about perfection. Iteration is better. So let me show you some of the stuff I've done over the last, arguably, my favorite tool these days is Cloud Code, which if you have, I'm not demonstrating that today, but if you get an opportunity, do try that out. And of course, the word code suggests it's code, but it's not really. So it's probably better just to call it Cloud Agent, and there are other equivalents, with OpenAI and Gemini as well. So you can use those as well. So I'm going to show you a few. So I'll start with one, which was an app, right? So this was an app I built for use in my class because one of the classes I changed in the last fall semester was to convert a consulting course into an entrepreneurship course, where the thesis was that an individual student who has never coded before, business students, typically afraid of code, would build a startup using AI only 15 weeks. And of course, trying to figure out free or cheap ways for them to do all of this there. And even during the semester, the tools change. And I created this sort of place to host their projects so that I could give them place to host their projects, and then also give them subdomains. Hopefully some of these sites are still live. Well, they're still live. Lucky me, I didn't test it before. But you can see that each of these student projects is now a subdomain of the main domain, right? And I set this up, and these were 16 students, but created this over summer and improved it over time. So that's an example of an app. One person, I built it. I don't do code too much. I know basically some ideas, but not too much. I'll share another one, which is still a proof of concept. This was again in context of, how do we help an individual student go onwards in the path to entrepreneurship. So two variants, really. This is one I'm working on where they can use this to get guidance, to get coaching as they go from an idea to a business, right? Again, all developed by me using AI agents. I have a separate project. We have a team of students also working on it, but this was sort of purely my effort to see what I could build, right? Here's another example based on a research project that I'm working on, where we were looking at AI in AI regulations with reference to medical devices. And as part of that, I found a data set which listed how the FDA has categorized approvals, right? So information about approvals over the last 9 years. And said, okay, this data, I mean, we didn't really need that data set for the analysis too much, but I said, okay, let's explore what we can do with it. So I have filters, you can, it's interactive. It's a single page, no database, created in about 2 hours. And this becomes a much better way to look at the data, right? All done by me providing context, providing an intent, and then letting an AI model do, right? So specify, okay, how do I want it to look? Here's the data. Here's what I want to do with it. And then let the model take, and of course, iterate, right? This didn't happen in 5 seconds. It took time, right? So these are some examples. So let's take a pause. I see a hand up before we get into, working with some tools. Let's see if people have questions. Carol has said GitHub. Yes, I do post all my stuff on GitHub, and you can see all of these projects. Most of them are public. Some of them can be hosted on GitHub. For example, this particular slide deck is hosted on GitHub because it doesn't need a database. It's just basically HTML. So anything which doesn't need a database, you can host on GitHub for free. If you need some kind of database at the backend, you can find free options on sites like Vercel.com and Netlify. And I find that for most small experiments, if you're not putting stuff in production, you can do everything with free tools. Yeah. Other questions? Context engineering, yes, true. Somebody had their hand up, I think. John?
Yeah, it's John.
John, do you want to take the mic or put your question in your chat? In the chat, sorry. Not the John Quarton. Another John, I think.
I think
Joycey.
Joycey.
Yeah, John Joycey. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I guess you can put it in the chat. Any other questions before we move on? And I guess I'll put the repositories link. I don't think I put it there. Yeah, you can look at all the public repositories there. And there are quite a few. There's a lot of stuff I've done on the research. Actually, I'll show one more while if anybody is, maybe we should move on to our, so this was an interesting one, which is, I found somebody had published sort of a PDF with visualizations of different mathematical concepts, and then use generative art to illustrate those systems. And this person had just given PDFs with some snippets of code. I said, this doesn't look interactive. I just downloaded that PDF and uploaded it into, of course, one of these AI tools, and said, okay, build this for me interactively. And I'm experimenting with a tool called Marimo, which is basically an interactive Python notebook, and saying create it in a way so that I can host it without a database. So technically, this is on GitHub. It does a good amount of simulations, but it's all doing it in the browser. So really, the data is packaged with the tool, right, with the notebook. So it's basically an HTML, but it's interactive, right? So for example, this is sort of modeling different parameters to simulate sort of the game of life, which if you're aware, you can take a look at it. And all of these will work in your browser. It takes a few seconds to load because there's a lot of code and data packaged along with it. So this was an attempt at, okay, I found a PDF, somebody's talking about something interesting. Let me see if I can make it interactive on it. And I've linked to the person who actually shared this earlier. So you can take a look at this, right? So this is another way to build stuff interactively, right? So I'll take another quick chat. I don't see any other questions. Okay, so let me pull up my build section, right? So this is where you should follow along and actually try something with me. So we're going to use, and let me share my deck again. Okay, so we're going to experiment with a tool called TL Draw, which is basically a canvas with some features embedded on it, right? So on a website, and then we're going to sketch on that, and then we're going to feed that to Google's AI Studio, which gives you like many different capabilities for free, right? These days, everybody's trying to get us to try stuff, so it's good times to use all the free stuff. May not last for long. And then Google AI Studio allows you to actually share that as an app. Now, if you choose to deploy it on GitHub, you can, but if not, you can have a preview link in maybe 20 minutes, you'll have a preview link that you can share with people. And I would like to have you share that, in the chat as well. So TL Draw for sketching and AI Studio for coding. The idea being here that we would rather have you, the human, start the creative process, right? So you make the sketch, maybe you can pull in an image as well. You can take a screenshot of something you like and then modify that. But the ideation must start with you, right? That's important because we want to use a mental model where we augment with AI rather than just automate or replace using AI. And until we start the process and then modify the outcome, you're really not building your own skills, right? So if you could do whatever we do right now, you could go straight to GPT or AI Studio and just write to say makes this for me. but it's much better if you start with the concept, if you start with the plan, or start with the sketch. In this case, we are doing visual, and then feed it to these AI models to actually build, right? So that's the model we want to try. So step one, sketch. Step two, feed to AI Studio. And then if you know later, you can publish on GitHub and share with people, put it as part of your portfolio as well, right? So first step, we'll open up this website, makereal.tldraw.com. So it will, it'll look like an empty canvas, right? So if you, just like a sort of, this sort of might even remind you of the earlier sort of Windows Paint tools that used to have a basic block diagramming. So you have the, the standard tools to make, your color palette and eraser at the bottom. So I'm just clicking through these, your basic, right, text. So you can also bring in images if you want from your file system. But if you want to do some freehand drawing, you can, right? And you can, erase stuff, bring in images, move things. So it's a basic sketch canvas, right? So if you're in sort of the teaching context, you can take inspiration from some of these ideas. But the important point is, think about some kind of web interactive experience that you want to build for yourself or for your students, or for some idea for an app, or it could be stuff like this as well. Okay, I need to display some data like that. It really can be anything, right? I even tried a sketch to have an AI tool actually teach me some notes, right? So the interactive music note teaching to, even that you can put together, or sort of at least conceptualize, right? So maybe one screen, maybe two screens. Use this opportunity to sort of build one or more screens, and basic ideas are enough, right? Put in text, put in some image if you need. You can add notes for context, right? And this can be used by the AI model later, right? But right now we are just doing sketching of an idea. One screen, two screens, more than enough. And then we will take this image out and use it in AI Studio, right? So let's take about 5 minutes and have you sketch what you think you want to build, okay? So some kind of an interface, doesn't have to be accurate, doesn't have to look nice. Put some text, what you want to do, put some context, use notes for that. If you need a reference image, you can. If you need to do something like what I'm doing, okay, saying, there's not much use. Let us say I want to copy what is happening on Illinois Hunt website, right? So I just copied a screenshot and put it on the canvas. Now that becomes the reference image, and then you can provide context, right? And that context will then be fed to the AI tool later to actually make stuff for you. Okay, so that's the basic idea. So let's take 5 minutes, have you come up with some concept. One screen is good enough. Two screens, if you want a better, if you want the AI tool to do more, if you're giving it more context, it'll do better, right? So let's take 5 minutes and have you create something. Meanwhile, I will clean up my screen and also try and make something. And in about 5 minutes, we can even, I don't know if people can share images, but we'll see. Okay, anyway, I'll let you work on this for 5 minutes. And I guess important to note, I don't think I've signed in. It didn't ask me to sign in. But I guess if you want to save stuff, you got to sign in. So I'll see some questions. Ross had a question on responsible AI, privacy, and security. So Ross actually had made a short video that we actually the campus also uses for part of their AI literacy module. I call it the ADAPT framework. And I don't think I remember all the acronyms now. It was some time back, but I'll look it up and share that video.
Excellent. So the students do get a primer on responsible AI before they go into these tools?
Yes, yeah. And we have options. Of course, this is a lot of these features you may not be able to build in sandboxed environments inside the university. So, but increasingly, for example, now we have features in the Google or the Gemini ecosystem available on campus. Faculty and staff have ChatGPT EDU licenses that they can purchase, which are protected. So there are options available, particularly in, I guess, larger universities, to provide infrastructure which allows you to use these tools for sensitive data as well. But generally available tools, you should never, use any sensitive data. And of course, there are issues around, giving appropriate credit and how you give credit to these AI tools as part of assignments and assessments. So there are, depending on the kind of work you're getting students to do, you have to give them guidance on the way to attribute, and then also think about if you're using these for serious, I guess, research work, then discussions on accuracy and bias need to be had.
Yep. Oh, that's great. Yeah, the attribution piece, Padma, that's something we should think about in future cohorts.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a very fast-moving, emerging discussion, I guess, on how to do that, or if you can do that. So that's great. That's great to hear you're doing that.
Yeah. So another minute or so. I would love to have people share some of what they've made. So let me also make I'm not very creative, so I can't come up with good ideas in 5 minutes. Probably you all might also be facing the same issue, but hopefully you're more creative than I am. I have the benefit of like 70 different projects I've done over the last year, so I don't have to be creative in 5 minutes. I can always pick on the projects I've already done. What kind of, Shanti has a question on what kind of AI adoptions face the real world challenges? That's a tough question. I'm not sure. Could you explain again a little bit more of what you're thinking? What, I mean, in terms of where these systems might fail in the real world, or, where are you going with that question? That it'll help to know a little bit more.
Yep. Actually, while we learn, it's a little different than in the real world scenario, like a corporate or putting all the things together. It's different. So how do they handle the adoptions in the real world for organizations or business or education domain when the students go and work? So how are they taught to get ready for that?
Yeah. Well, to be frank, there's not enough time to do everything in the classroom. There's not even enough time to figure out how much of the curriculum has to change from, because there's obviously a body of content, right? And our traditional education system has been focused on, okay, here are some concepts, here are some frameworks. Then typically I use this, right? Concept, skills, and tools. And then we hope with our education that the concepts stay with the students. Concepts and frameworks stay with the students, and they can generalize that across new tools. Now, the challenge these days is that these concept frameworks, sort of that knowledge is now available in 5 seconds. Of course, people still may not know how to use that knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So there is this balance that we are trying to find between, okay, how much time is in understanding the concepts versus using those frameworks, using these AI tools, because it becomes supercharged. But if you don't know what you're doing, then you have no way of figuring out whether the output of these tools is any good. And that's the challenge that students face because they are novices, right?
Yes.
So to be frank, I don't think we can get to the stage where there is enough time to prepare students on, okay, in the real world, what are the problems you're going to face? Because not enough time to do content, tools, and then add in, okay, how you need to use these tools differently because now everything has AI in it.
Yep.
Just if you can get that much done is good. Now, when you get, of course, we can give them some of that practice with the projects and practicums, and different programs have that. But the tools are changing so fast that the capability is changing so fast that I think universities have to explore a model. And John Cotton, who's on the chat here, knows that he's worked at Gies now. I think we have to move to a model, not universities, like all of education has moved to a lot more hands-on, where what used to happen in internships or co-ops probably needs to happen inside the school, because students are not getting the entry-level jobs, because the entry-level jobs now need more skills. And maybe one solution is that they build more, they share more, they get more feedback from their peers, from the public. So that's sort of my thesis, is that we need to build more, experiment more, and do more hands-on learning. But the challenge still is that if you build without knowing the concepts, you have no way of verifying that what you're building actually is an accurate model of reality, or that concept, or that whatever math formula or physics concept or chemistry concept or whatever. So still figuring it out. Okay, so
thank you, Vishal. That helps.
Sure.
But we have to explore on that area, as you said exactly. We have to open up the pool for the public and bring in corporate high-level people, like what they are facing, what their daily work. So the students are exposed to what's going on in daily life on the corporate level.
Certainly, yeah. So would love to see if anybody has some screenshots, or you can export the model and share in the chat if somebody has something to share. Would be good to see. Otherwise, we can move on to the next tool. Anybody willing to share? I think you should be able to.
Can I share the screen? I just
sure,
made 50 words, what I've been listening in this, and then made, I'll show what I did. I don't know if it makes sense, but.
Yeah.
This is what I made. I just was picking up all the keywords that you were mentioning, and then I was trying to put notes on all the keywords that came into my mind that so far I remember.
Okay, so I guess when you think about this as some kind of interactive artifact or some kind of published artifact, what would you want it to, what purpose would it serve? And do you want it to be?
Yeah, it is like kind of whenever it's for me personally, whenever I listen something, whatever the keywords that come in, I feel like I have to go back and then check on them much more, or have some more context around it. So I just keep writing down those keywords, and then I go back and then check it out. So maybe for me, when I look back, it is for my personal, like a board, wherein if from this session, if I have to think of certain things that I have, the nuggets that I got back from this, then I'll look for these keywords, and then I can remember what I've just heard and what was in the session or something like that.
Okay, so are you
still many more keywords? It was just I was thinking what to do, and then this is what I came up with 2-3 minutes. Yeah.
No worries. Yeah. So how about you export that as an image and share it in the chat, then I'll work with it here.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And I'm also sharing another link in the chat. Oh, let me find the chat. There it is. So these are instructions that you can follow along, maybe even after the session, to maybe if you have more time later to come up with a better sketch. But for now, we'll just work with what Padma has. So let me see. I don't see the image yet from you, Padma.
Yeah, I'm just exporting.
Okay. So next, we're going to try aistudio.google.com, and this worksheet link that I've sent you should give you all the links. So technically, the TL Draw canvas is actually a smart canvas, so it can actually make interactive stuff for you there itself. But Google AI Studio can make fully interactive apps and also publish them. So that's why I'm using AI Studio, because it allows you to do a lot more than what TL Draw does. But TL Draw we're just using as an online canvas for now, though you can make it interactive, and the instructions in the worksheet I've given you allow you to create an API and do that, because Google gives you sort of free APIs as well. I don't see your image yet.
Actually, I'm not able to upload it in the chat, so I'm trying to figure out
Okay.
if I can just share the screenshot here.
Yeah, okay, so just share your screen. I'll take a screenshot and use that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Teams does allow adding files. I'm not sure why it's not doing that.
Should. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Share your screen. I'll take a screenshot. Okay. Okay, so now I will open up AI Studio and start sharing. So aistudio.google.com. I'm signed in with my personal account. Sometimes work accounts get blocked with AI Studios, so you might have to do the same, instead of using your work account. So I think this is where you should land up. So there are a lot of options. We're going to use you can explore this later. It's wonderful stuff, images, videos, a lot of it with the free model you can do, but we're just going to go to build. And so this just like a ChatGPT interface, but I'm going to put stuff, the screenshot that I just took. I think this is the right one. Yes, 10:55 p.m. Okay, this is an idea board from a talk. Make an interactive app from this, right? So probably not the best prompt, but we'll see what it does, right? So, and this is all running on the free tier, right? So I haven't done any credit card, or maybe I have a credit card, but I've never been charged for it, right? So the benefit of these kind of interfaces is that you see the thing building right in front of you. So in this case, as it is building on the left side, it gives you ideas based on your context, right? Say, okay, hey, do you want to do X? Do you want to do Y? It gives you options because it's got an AI model actually thinking along with you. So it can do some of the sort of advice and then show you a preview. Then you can deploy. If you want to deploy, you got to do it on Google, which is a little of a bit of a pain. I would say if you do want to share it, you can put it on GitHub. There's a link right here on the top right. And then from GitHub, you can choose platforms like Vercel or Netlify. They are much easier to work with than Google, right? So what you see here is now a interactive artifact. So you see, it's sort of like a, what is it, Miro board. You've actually created sort of a Miro board equivalent for yourself. So as I click this, there are note cards on the right that are interactive, right? So I can drag the board. So in about 5 minutes, I have an interactive representation of whatever I needed, which is now supplemented with additional context, additional information, and this is all AI generated. Now, if I wanted to make changes, I could say change the color of the sticky notes to yellow, right? Yellow is probably better spelled with a W. And it'll make those changes for you. Of course, you can go inside the code if you want, but who wants to touch code when you've got AI tools there doing stuff for you? And then you can copy the app onto another system, save it, download it as a zip, or save it on GitHub. And if I just choose like a quick sharing with all of you, I could just do this, copy the link, and share it in the chat. And I hope it'll work. But you can tell me if it works or not. So within about 10-15 minutes, you've been able to do from an idea to a prototype with absolutely no cost. And you keep iterating, right? Keep chatting, keep iterating. Now, the more you do, the more likely it is you'll run into limits where it is free versus paid. But Gemini these days is quite generous with their free tiers. So, and this all works online. You don't need to install anything. And as you become more and more comfortable with this builder mindset, you can actually explore tools, according to me, which would be better, where you would actually keep stuff on your computer and then perhaps share on GitHub, right? So I know we are on the hour and we are supposed to finish. So I will stop here, and you have the instructions to follow along, and you have my GitHub profile as well to look at the projects and my contact details. So happy to, LinkedIn is a place where I'm often there. So please connect and reach out if you need to know more details. But yeah, open for Q&A, or if we need to close the session. Padma, back to you.
Thank you so much. This is so wonderful. Yeah, I see in the chat, Lori was able to build a basic restaurant menu tracker and designer from her sketch. So this is amazing. Yeah. Ross, you have a question?
If you're short on ideas, you can take screenshots, take an image, of an actual menu from a restaurant and say, okay, make this into an interactive menu. It'll do that for you.
Wow, nice. Yeah. Interesting.
Excellent.
I really learned something today.
Yes, this is great. Vishal, thank you. Thank you for this. I have a quick question. I know that I've seen a lot of grants for like NEA and Department of Education for teacher professional development. Just $1,000, $2,000 a year. Have you explored any of that? And do you think those could be used to pay for paid subscriptions to some of these tools?
Absolutely. I mean, we are fortunate that the college here supports our experiments with different grants and with formal sort of faculty innovation fellowships, so you can apply for those. Really, for these experiments, we don't need to go out looking for funding, but there are quite a few out there. And certainly there is a big focus on AI for education now from the government side. So I encourage people to look at those grants. But it's really, I don't think money is a factor anymore, because most of these platforms give you enough on the free tier that you can experiment a lot. It's only when you need to say, okay, I need to deliver this to 500 students and I need to make sure that it is scalable and robust and secure, that you start worrying about money. Until then, money is not a concern. Of course, you still need to worry about privacy and security, and you never want to put data there, but otherwise it's not a concern.
Okay, thanks. Great to hear.
Any other questions? And I guess I think my worksheet has my contact details as well, if I'm not wrong. And of course, you have my LinkedIn profile anyway, so happy to connect there. Yeah. Oh, back to you.
I'll be sharing all the details, all the things that you have shared here, along with the recording on the YouTube once we have it ready. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And Vishal, this is really good. A good way to start our speaker series. Definitely, I'm sure all our viewers will agree on this. If once you have done, this is for the viewers, if you have followed along and did something, please do share it on the LinkedIn and tag Vishal and us. We would love to see what you have created. See you guys next week, same time, same place, and watch out for more details. There is more coming soon from Future World Alliance. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Happy New Year. Thanks, Vishal.
Bye.
Thank you.